Israel's radar systems are under attack in a very unique way, saturating and flooding all radar systems. Now, as the US military is starting to get more involved in Israel's war and helping with these saturation attacks, I want to tackle this problem for Israel, and I want to talk about this because, of course, your mainstream media will never actually mention what Hezbollah is doing to the north of Israel and what their tactics and intentions truly are. Okay, so first things first, the idea of a saturation on a radar. This is what Hezbollah is doing, and they've said it publicly to local Lebanese media channels. They are trying to distract and to make Israel look away from Gaza. And so I went ahead and asked the actual experts who do this every single day within the military. No secret information was given. The only question I asked was, is a saturation attack legit, and is it a good method to actually distract your enemy? Here's what the experts say. Essentially, a saturation attack or flooding radar systems, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if you will. Initially, it's great. You are flooding the radar system. The Iron Dome is going crazy. You got UAVs over here, some missiles over here. But the issue is this: Israel is then able to track where you launched your initial saturation attack or your UAVs or rockets. That's how updated and good the Iron Dome is and the radar systems today for Israel. Now, we are still in the early stages of war where Israel has to take every single thing as a threat. So as Hezbollah keeps doing these saturation attacks to the north, Israel has actually had to evacuate certain portions within northern Israel, has also been dealing with these false red flag alerts throughout all of Israel. You've had reports of people coming in on hang gliders and UAVs flying all over Jerusalem. And this is why Israel has even deployed many troops up into the north and has been trying to keep the public notified that, yes, we are on a second front to the north with Hezbollah. So the main way Israel is counteracting this is two ways. First and foremost, the Iron Dome in today's radars can actually identify if a rocket or UAV is a legitimate threat. If a rocket is being launched directly into the Mediterranean, the Iron Dome is not going to quote-unquote get distracted and launch ammunition. However, the Iron Dome will launch ammunition to take out the rocket attacks if there is a legit threat. Another way Israel is dealing with this is quite literally counter-battery missions, where if Hezbollah launches an attack, Israel launches 10 more attacks on that specific position. You also have the US military who's getting in on this, specifically the US Navy, who's saying, we're going to help with these saturation attacks, and whatever Hezbollah fires, we're going to try and also intercept these attacks. Something else I forgot to mention as I was making this video, Israel is also starting to outfit their tanks with the anti-drone cages. Now, if you know what I'm thinking, this looks rather familiar. What conflict is doing the exact same thing? Obviously, up in Ukraine and Russia, you see these anti-drone cages being fitted on almost all pieces of equipment and tanks. They look rather goofy and clanky. Nonetheless, they are highly effective. Now, don't get this confused with RPG cages or RPG nets. This is a known thing, and the United States has been using them for a long time, especially for the last 20 years. Nonetheless, it's interesting to see how in the modern battlefield and how militaries are watching what Ukraine and Russia is doing and what's effective, these anti-drone cages are highly effective, and they stop a lot of impact and damage on whatever piece of equipment has this cage on the equipment. And what's also interesting is that Israeli intelligence can get the same exact specifications being used up in Ukraine and get the same results, because let's be honest, a lot of the drones that Russia is using is being supplied by Iran. And who is Iran supplying? Hezbollah and Hamas and the other proxy units within the region. So it's quite an interesting strategy, and it's probably going to work well for Israel to have these cages, since they are known to work up with Ukraine and Russia. Now, the main question is this: how long can Hezbollah sustain these types of attacks? Now, Hezbollah has not gotten into a lot of action with Israel lately, I mean, as far as this war is concerned, but Hezbollah has actually been rather effective on creating casualties on Israeli defense forces within the border. I mean, you have footage being released, and I can't show it on here, where Hezbollah is coordinating attacks on specific locations and at the same time launching these false attacks to flood radar systems in these saturation attacks. Something else to consider is that Hezbollah could be using this distraction to get set up in Syria, because as we know, the United States and Israel have already stated we are preparing for preemptive attacks in Syria, as we always have been doing even before the war. Now, Hezbollah is of course tied to Iran. They've even stated this in public manifestos. Everyone knows this. Iran has even met with the leaders of Hezbollah. So the question is this: how long can Hezbollah sustain these attacks? Well, it's really entirely up to Iran. Iran is the one who gives the green lights for really any attacks, and Iran provides a lot of funding for Hezbollah. The U.S. military has also, of course, in the Middle East, fixed their force posture to literally be on all red alert. Soldiers are ready to fight, Air Force is ready to fight, Navy is ready to go, and Marines. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing. However, the United States has indicated and realizes that because of the war with Hamas in Gaza, the United States is also a secondary target for a lot of these groups who are pro-Iranian. And again, in Hezbollah's first manifesto, the United States is on the list, as well as France. I mean, France can never catch a break in today's day and age, but the United States is on the list as a mortal enemy to Hezbollah. And again, Hezbollah is an extension to Iran. Now, the other thing to consider is that the Iron Dome, Israel's missile defense system, is a very high-tech and very effective piece of equipment and operation. We're talking about a 90 to 95% success rate. Even with these saturation attacks, again, the system can identify whether or not a threat is legit or non-legit. And the other thing is this: Israel, regardless, is taking out munitions and taking out UAVs that are flying towards Israel. Israel, again, cannot take anything as a threat. They are taking it. Israel cannot take this as a joke. Everything is legit. Everything is a threat. However, Israel has even stated you're getting a lot of false flags. A lot of things are blipping up on the radar, even on the Israeli Defense Forces Twitter, where they always constantly update sirens and alarms throughout all of Israel. That Twitter feed is constantly updating with all of these false attacks. Now, ultimately, this is what Israel is hoping for, and this is what the U.S. military is sort of promising. You have this second strike group who is coming into the region to support Israel, but mainly to focus on Iran. Again, when I say Iran, you have the big country of Iran, you have the military, the government, but Iran really are these proxy little units that work underground. You don't really hear about them, but they are in the region, all over the Middle East, from Syria to Iraq to Lebanon. Now, you do have the risk for a further escalation of war between these proxy units going into Israel and messing with other U.S. troops. However, the region has no choice. Iran keeps saying, we are going to get involved with quote-unquote Palestine and Gaza, and we're going to eliminate Israel. They've always made these threats. However, again, with the strike group coming in, the United States and Israel is trying to minimize these outside attacks and these saturation attacks on Israel and the radar systems. Israel also keeps saying we're getting prepared for the new stage of war. Now, there's a lot of speculation across all streams of media, mainstream and independent, that Israel, of course, is going to invade Gaza. There are tanks staging near the Gaza border, but no one really knows what's going to happen. You also have word that there might be a possible hostage exchange. Again, you never know. Nonetheless, the northern front doesn't get a lot of coverage, and I'm making this video to let you guys know that this is the main tactic up to the north. It's not necessarily to hurt Israeli soldiers. It's a plus if Hezbollah gets to. I'm not saying it, Hezbollah is, but it's a major plus and a win if Israel keeps wasting their Iron Dome munitions and keeps getting scared into thinking they're getting attacked when they're really not. This, of course, is allowing for Hamas to continue their operations internally within Gaza as they keep launching missiles. And again, they are actually dealing with what the Iron Dome is capable of, stopping these rocket attacks, but then identifying the exact region where the rocket attack came from. Now, this is what I want to end with, and these are some things for you to think about. First things first is, how much is the U.S. military willing to commit into this campaign and mission? Again, when you think about the United States, most people are looking at the humanitarian aspect and how the U.S. is going to help Gaza, which is a good thing. But you sort of have this covert war going on to the north where the United States keeps saying, we're going after Iranian targets. Like, that's our objective right now in the Middle East. If they're going to threaten Israel and they're going to send more troops into Syria out of Iraq, it doesn't matter. The United States has committed their mission in attacking these targets. Second thing to consider is that Hezbollah does whatever Iran says. So if Iran keeps saying we're going to get involved with this conflict, it's not the government of Iran, it's not Iran themselves, it's Hezbollah. It's these proxy units who are willing to do whatever Iran says because these units have sworn allegiance to Iran. Third thing is, Iran is not necessarily the most economically stable country in the world, so it's going to be interesting to see how much funding, money, manpower, whatever, they're going to send to Hezbollah or the rest of these proxy units to continue the flooding of these radar systems and the saturation of these radar systems. This takes a lot of money. It's also very very high risk and not the biggest reward. Nonetheless, it looks like Hezbollah is not willing to take manpower and try breaching into Israel. They've done that before and they failed miserably, but they are willing to launch a few things over the border so that Israel looks up. The radar systems are going off. That to Hezbollah, that to Iran is what they're achieving right now, and they're actually rather successful with it. Something else to look for is how aggressive is Israel going to get on Hezbollah. Israel has already been taking out Hezbollah targets left and right throughout the border, also in Syria. And who's to say Israel's not going to send even more manpower and potentially do more preemptive strikes over Hezbollah territory? So we'll see what happens. Nonetheless, the main objective for Israel is, of course, Hamas. They keep saying this, stationed or located in Gaza. But these outside threats are really being motivated by the entire siege and the war with Hamas. So we'll see what happens. It looks like it's only going to further escalate, which is not a good thing, but that is the current situation at the time of making this video.